From some smooth soul harmonies to a shrine to the history of hip-hop via a hotly awaited release from pop princess Ariana Grande, it's all coming up in today's show. We're kicking off with a burst of neo-soul thanks to Durand Jones and The Indications. The Indiana-based group might have drawn inspiration from Curtis Mayfield and Jackie Wilson, but their latest record, American Love Call, is anything but retro. France 24's Florence Villeminot sat down with frontman himself, Durand, and drummer and vocalist Aaron Frazer to find out how their special sort of Sunday school led to great things.
Hey, we're Durand Jones and The Indications.
Come on, baby, don't you know that's how I really feel. Gonna love you, baby, yes I will. Don't you know that's how I really feel. Gonna love you, baby, yes I will.
Durand Jones and The Indications, thanks so much for being on the show. You're back with your sophomore album, American Love Call. What can fans expect from this album?
I felt like this album, listening to it, was very American in its production, in its style, but it's also a love call to anyone who's ever experienced any kind of love, whether that be platonic, or it be a relationship love, or it be a love lost.
It's morning in America, but I can't see the dawn. Congressmen in Washington receive their briefing brew.
There's a lot of message in the lyrics that you have in your album. Would you say that the current political climate in the States has seeped into your songs?
Oh, definitely. It's very hard not to have some type of reflection of the current climate right now and be an artist.
After touring the country and seeing this really kind of fascinating mix of hope and despair and anger, there are a lot of amazing, really resilient communities from which a lot of really exciting young leaders are emerging. And at the same time, you turn on the news and on a macro scale, things can seem really bleak. In America, there's a lot of identity politics, which is talking about, you know, what you look like and your lived experiences, and that's all essential to the conversation. But there's another factor, which is sort of our economic situation, which is something that cuts across race and if you're an immigrant or not, people are still struggling in the country. So it's that sense of intersectionality that I feel really strongly about, I think we feel strongly about as a band, and we try to incorporate that into the lyrics.
Now, when you recorded your debut album, it cost $452.11 with a case of beer. Is that true?
That is very true.
Probably a couple cases of beer, but yeah.
How did you record that album for so little money?
We started doing this thing called, we started calling it Soul Sundays. And basically, we would just go to Aaron's house and would start the day listening to records, and then we would make our way to his basement, and we would just vibe in there. Someone would have a riff or a melody, and if we were feeling it, if we were vibing on it, we would just go with it. One of my best memories from that point in time, which feels like so long ago now, was Make a Change. It was just a random Sunday night, but we were feeling that song so hard that we didn't leave Aaron's place. I didn't leave your place till like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I had like school like 9 in the morning.
Because your two voices work so well together, and they're so different. And how do you guys, I mean, you told us that you like riff on something, but how do you make those voices blend together?
I think we both love singing with other people, like singing harmony. I think we just kind of share that love of like when a chord locks in and it just shimmers. I think a lot of people don't listen to music in album form anymore. They listen to a lot of playlists where they're hearing a lot of different voices throughout an hour of music. And so in our live show, I think it's nice that people can hear different styles and we can cool it off, with the songs I do and then heat it back up with the stuff Durand does. I think it keeps it interesting, and then when we sing together, it's something that you don't see a lot.
Try to keep by just for a while. Too hard, my paint on my smile.
For the song Smile, you're talking about addiction, people struggling with addiction, but that doesn't necessarily mean addiction to drug or alcohol. Is that correct?
Self-destructive behaviors, vices, whatever you want to call them, addictions can come in so many different forms. You might be addicted to a relationship that's not good for you. It might be a toxic social environment, or it might be a substance. But yeah, with our lyrics in general, whether it's songs that are political or songs that are about love, it's like, I think we all contain rage and tenderness, and sometimes we are filled with, political fury, and sometimes we just want to be silly and be in love, so we try to translate all that.
Thank you guys so much for being on the show, and best of luck with the rest of your tour.
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Taking a look at one of the week's big releases now, pop princess Ariana Grande drops her 5th studio album to the delight of her very impatient fans. It's called Thank You Next. Grande has said this latest album's a bittersweet look back at past relationships, and she drops a few names here and there. The title track has already broken records since it was released in November last year, racking up the most plays in a single day for any female artist on Spotify. The second single's currently sitting at the top of the Hot 100 chart in the US. Let's take a listen. This is 7 Rings.
Wearing no ring, but ain't gon' be no misses. I'm matching diamonds for 6 of my bitches. I'd rather spoil all my friends with my riches. Think without therapy, my no addiction. Whoever said money can solve your problems must thought I had enough money to solve them. They say which one I say now, I want all them. Happiness is the same price as red bottoms. My smile is beaming, my skin is gleaming. The way it shine, I know you seen it. I bought a crib just for the closet, both his and hers. I want it.
Well, it might feel as fresh as if it burst on the scene yesterday, but hip-hop is apparently 40 years old. Music historians say the global phenomenon was kicked off by the SUGARHILL Gang's 1979 track, Rapper's Delight, and the rest is hip-hop history. Now, a new museum in Washington, D.C. is celebrating the uniquely American art form. Cole Stangler has more.
From block parties in the Bronx to a museum in the nation's capital, 40 years after the birth of hip-hop, a pop-up museum in Washington is paying homage to the art form. Some of its legends are here to celebrate and reflect on time past. Like Master G of the SUGARHILL Gang, the first hip-hop group to make it big back in 1979.
It was forced upon society as a whole to let it happen. They couldn't stop it. You can't stop what can't be stopped. You can't kill what can't be killed. And that's hip-hop.
A music form intimately tied to breakdancing.
Everybody was either a DJ or b-boy, and I was a b-boy. But we started rapping because, the rap part, that was what everybody wasn't doing.
Among the museum's highlights, memorabilia from Rockefeller Records, the label founded by Brooklyn's Jay-Z, and a display for Detroit's Marshall Mathers, better known as Eminem. A snapshot of how this urban art form grew into a world-renowned cultural force. A delight for visitors, even if the older generation can't help but wax a little nostalgic.
Hip-hop culture now is more subculture, it's more drug culture, it's violent culture. You know, the culture of violence, that has nothing to do with hip-hop. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, we did get high, but that's not what hip-hop was about. Hip-hop is a music-driven culture. It's not a violence-driven culture. It's not a drug-driven culture.
The museum's creator said he wanted to remix the traditional museum experience with graffiti and with music. It's slated to stay open until mid-February.
And finally, he's known by the letter M here in France, a musical magpie, a one-man melting pot. He is, of course, Mathieu Chédid, and he's back with his 6th studio album. It's called Lettre Infinie, an endless, unfinished letter, and it seems Chédid has returned to his exuberant onstage persona, M, half funk rock guitarist, half comic book hero. Many of the tracks on this latest record feature the voice of his talented daughter, Billy Chédid. Take a listen. This is Super Chérie. Do check out our website, and you can also keep up with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.